Moving now to the UK, the Supreme Court began a landmark 4-day hearing today to decide whether the Parliament has the authority to invoke Brexit. Its 11 justices will hear an appeal by the government against the High Court's November ruling that only Parliament has the power to trigger Article 50. The hearing will be broadcast live, though no official judgment is expected until January. And joining us now from London is I-24 News correspondent Jonathan Sacerdoti. Thanks for being with us today, Jonathan. What does this hearing mean?
This hearing is quite important, not just in terms of Brexit, but also in constitutional terms for the way Britain is run. Because what this all centres around is a very technical legal point, whether or not the government has the right to take certain actions without putting them to a vote of the whole of Parliament. And that means that in this case, they were challenged in the High Court by a woman called Gina Miller and others. And the High Court ruled that they couldn't, in the case of triggering Article 50 in order to begin the process of leaving the EU, they couldn't go about this without putting it to a vote of all members of Parliament. Now, the government has decided to challenge this in the Supreme Court, and for the first time, 11 Supreme Court justices are sitting to rule over this. So it's a very high-profile case, which will decide whether or not the government can trigger Article 50 as they wish before the end of March next year without putting that to a parliamentary vote.
And do we know anything about these 11 justices' stances on Brexit? Is there any way to predict the outcome of this?
So it's very important to state again that it doesn't really matter what the 11 justices' views on Brexit are, because their job is to rule on a point of law independently of their views on Brexit. There has been some discussion in the press over one or two of the justices saying that there may be issues to do with their impartiality, because the president of the Supreme Court, in fact, his wife is reported to have tweeted something pro-Remain, and they say that that might compromise his ability to remain independent. And similarly, there's another justice who they believe in the press has shown some sort of partiality in this issue. But it's very important to state that the independence of the judiciary is key, and that these people are trusted within the Constitution of Great Britain to act independently and to use their independent judgment to really decide this on a point of law rather than on what they think should happen in terms of Britain leaving the EU. And that's something which, of course, the government is respecting by taking this to the Supreme Court to have the decision made. Either way, of course, the government will try to pursue their agenda of triggering Article 50 during March of 2017, whatever happens, even if they have to bring about a bill which is voted on in Parliament, and then members of Parliament will have to decide if they'll go against the wishes of the majority of people who voted in that referendum saying that they want to leave the EU.
Jonathan Sacerdoti, thank you so much for joining us today from London.